And along with that, we need a mechanism for delivering the findings to farmers and other users in readily usable fashion. It's not enough just to do a refereed journal article and publish it in a language that only a few of your esteemed colleagues will understand. And that's necessary. We've got to have that, and people have to do that to survive in the reward system. But that's not going to solve the world's problems.
Do you see extension? Excuse me. Do you see extension fulfilling this role of delivering the information to the farmers? Increasingly, yes. But not just extension. I see Soil Conservation Service. I see increasingly the private sector, pest control advisors and so forth, picking up on this. I'm really encouraged at the way it's beginning to spread. Within the private sector, I see the resistance, a very stubborn resistance to sustainable agriculture, just melting like a spring snow. Do you really? I'm really encouraged, yes. And I see extension's resistance also. And again, stemming from their concern about their clientele, not wanting to mislead them, not wanting them to fail, but also having their knowledge base limited to just the chemical approach. Now that's changing. The new legislation calls for having training sessions for all of extension by, I think it's 1992 or something like this. We don't have any funds for that yet, but we're, at least not through LISA. Environmental Protection Agency is kicking in $1 million, supplementing our $6.7 million LISA appropriation. And we plan to use a piece of that money to initiate training processes. For extension people? For extension people, but also for Soil Conservation Service, for private sector people. We want to train a new era of private entrepreneurs, you see. Many people want to make that transition. They're looking for consultants, pest control consultants, farm management consultants that can help them make that process. Transition without tears is our goal. I like that phrase. There's a great need for information out there, you feel. You know, people are wanting to find out. Yes. I had wanted you to talk about LISA, and had also asked that you, if you wanted to say anything particularly more about Bob Rodale, whose tragic death came recently. Yes. I was really privileged to know Bob for 10 years. He was a prime moving force. He was my mentor. I really cherished the times that I was able to come to Emmaus and sit down in his office beside his little fire and kick our feet up and just talk, you know, exchange ideas. I found him to be one of the most imaginative, creative people I have ever met. He just had an instinct for ideas that could work. He would spin off ideas just very rapidly, and he was not doctrinaire. He was not stubborn about his ideas. He would toss out an idea, and he had a number of trusted colleagues around him who would talk him out of ideas that simply had no hope of working. But then sometimes he would keep coming back, and these ideas would shape and evolve, and next thing you know, it was off and running. His creation of the regeneration network was an example of that. There were many things that he did that really were inspirational. Much of what I know today about sustainable agriculture, alternative organic agriculture, is a direct result of that grant that I received from the Rodale Research Center in 1980 to do my sabbatic. That was a turning point, and you know, Bob Rodale was the prime mover behind that. And his writings were inspirational and creative. Most recent experience I had with Bob was at Esalen Institute in January.
We spent 3 days together in a think tank operation with people from all over the United States, Wes Jackson and John Reginald and a number of others from around the country who had been thinking about this, worrying about many of these issues for all of their careers. We sat down and thought through, where can we go from here? We came up with what has been known as the Asilomar Declaration. It was presented at the Asilomar conference immediately after the Esalen Institute.
It's been widely published since then, hasn't it?
Yes, and it was very carefully sculpted. Bob and I were on the writing team that articulated the ideas. We were able to draw many of the concepts that had been bubbling forth in this roundtable discussion over a couple of days into some words that people could agree upon. And as you know, Bob was a brilliant writer. He had his work in journalism and in English, and then his commitment to taking complex scientific findings, concepts, and translating them into plain English that Joe Sixpack can understand. I really respected that capacity in Bob, and never losing sight of the ultimate goals of serving the needs of mankind, present and future generations. I really respected the guy.
And he was a most unusual man. I remember his enthusiasm.
Yes.
And the last time I heard him speak, he talked about getting a new bicycle, and he talked about it with as much joy as a child would, about the pleasure of it.
Yes.
If people in years to come are listening to you or are watching this videotape, Patrick, what would you want to have them doing or thinking? Do you have any messages for the future?
I guess the primary message is the joy of commitment and of being useful. I just see so much cynicism and so much apathy. There's no fun in that. I mean, life can be so enjoyable if we really latch on to something we feel is important and then do the best we can to make a contribution in that area. It may sound like I'm preaching to you, but I find that this is what really distinguishes people like Bob Rodale, who just enjoy their work and achieve a great deal of personal, professional satisfaction from doing it. From those who just kind of punch the clock.
Put their time in.
Put their time in. And I'd say that's my number one suggestion, is that whatever we do, let's make sure that we're locked onto something that is worth doing, and then let's just do our best at it. And there are so many challenges in the area of agriculture, of health, of communities, of so many endeavors within life that need and deserve the attention of people. I'm very optimistic.
I'm sure you've instilled that in your children. I didn't ask you at the beginning of our talk about your family, but I know you have 5 children, all grown?
5 grown children, 8 grandchildren.
And 8 grandchildren.
I'm now married to my second wife. Their mother died of cancer in 1981 during my sabbatic in California. Since then, I married one of her best friends. At her she had suggested.
Your first wife suggested it?
She suggested this. Yeah.
She must have been a very unusual woman.
She was extraordinary, and I said, no, I'm not interested in marrying anybody. I mean, you're too tough an act to follow. And she said, no, and I want you to get married, and Austria would be an excellent wife for you. And about that same time, she appeared to an Austria in a dream and said, in Austria, after I die, would you please marry Patrick?
Oh.
Neither of us said anything to the other about it until much later. But we now live in California. I resigned from Penn State.
Yes, I think it's ironic that when we met the first time, I was living in California and you were living on the East Coast, and now I'm living here and you're on the West Coast.
That's right.
Do you find California living very different?
Yes. I selected California not because of the climate, but for personal reasons. An officer and I belong to a foundation, a non-denominational Christian foundation. There's headquarters out there, and we get a lot of joy in participating in the instruction and teaching the children. I teach a woodworking class, and the kids just take great joy in learning how to drive a nail and things like this. And we do a tremendous amount of learning in that context, and that's why we picked Glendale. I had to resign from Penn State. Obviously, it was not a sustainable relationship. Me spending full time running a national program and being paid a chunk of my salary from Penn State. They were very gracious. I had a wonderful career at Penn State for 20 years. They were very supportive. They really wanted me to come back and establish a sustainable agriculture program. They were very disappointed and I was also disappointed.
Yes, I'm sure.
When I couldn't do that, but it was just not feasible to both run a national program of this nature and be a professor and do justice to the teaching and other responsibilities.
Well, I think the scope of what you're doing now is so important, and I'm personally very appreciative and professionally very appreciative, and echo the acknowledgement in the front of Alternative Agriculture where it says the work of Patrick Madden is particularly appreciated. And I thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much, Jayne.
And I wish you well.
Thank you.